Hi friends and welcome. Well, today's video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN, the VPN we used when we traveled around the world.
We sure did. Well, we've had a ton of questions from people about shore excursions. As you know, we spent 9 months traveling all the way around the world on a cruise ship. We went to over 65 countries and took almost 160 shore excursions. And we certainly learned a lot through sometimes our own mistakes and sometimes other issues that occurred. So in today's video, we're going to give you all our best hints, tips and tricks, as well as where we booked a lot of these shore excursions so that you can have the best cruise experience possible.
You're not going to want to miss it, friends. Welcome to Living Phase 2.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Nancy, and we're empty nesters striving to live life to the fullest.
And we're living that full life, sharing our adventures with you here on our Living Phase 2 channel. And one of the things that we're going to share and talk about today, as was mentioned in the opening, all the things we learned as we took almost 160 shore excursions all the way around the world. Well, the first thing that we're going to talk about is how and where do you book a shore excursion? We get tons of questions on this. So we're going to go over some of the main areas where we booked shore excursions and then give you some hints, some pros and cons for each one of those. And of course, the very first one is, and the most obvious, and probably where most people book most of their shore excursions are, directly through your cruise line.
Right, and there are a lot of pros for booking directly through the cruise line. In fact, probably about 10% of our excursions that we did on the World Cruise were booked through Royal Caribbean. But some of the pros are they guarantee you're going to get back to the ship.
Yeah.
That is kind of the thing that they punch and hit hard.
Yeah, I do want to say, in my opinion, only my opinion, I think that's overblown a little bit. That, as Nancy said, is the number one selling point they make. And we took, as we said, well over 150, 160 shore excursions, and 90% were not with Royal Caribbean. And I would say all of our tour operators were very cognizant of getting us back to the ship. They understand this is a cruise shore excursion and they need to have you back at a certain time. So whereas it's not necessarily, depending on the operator, guaranteed, although some operators do, that is something they push, but I wouldn't necessarily, me personally, make just a decision based on that.
And I feel the same way. So
right.
Another pro is there is a lot of hand holding. I mean, you don't have to worry about the times. They're going to be telling you at such and such time, you be at such and such place, and they're going to handhold you. They've got their little blue paddles, we call them the lollipops, and they walk you directly to the bus, and they walk you to the next destination. And even on the bus, the guides on the bus have the lollipops that you follow along throughout your tour. And so there is a lot of hand holding, which can be a very good thing.
Right, you come down from your cabin, you go to like the main theater or something or wherever they're meeting, and it's just effortless. So that is a huge pro, that it does make it, you don't have to think about anything, right? You're on vacation, you just go and it's easy. It's super easy.
Another pro is you've got the shore excursions desk right there on the ship. So if you have any questions about the excursion, you can go right there and ask, and somebody is right there to answer it.
Yeah, especially if you have any issues, you need to cancel, whatever.
And speaking of canceling, they've got a great cancellation policy, at least on Royal Caribbean. If you cancel within 48 hours, you're going to get a full refund. So that's a pro in my book.
Right.
And it is also very easy to book an excursion. You just have to go to their website.
Right. Well, speaking of internet, that takes us to the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark VPN. So since we're talking about shore excursions, going ashore in all these different foreign countries that we went to, different areas, you want to make sure that your data and your device is fully protected. And that's what Surfshark VPN does. It builds a private tunnel, think of it as a tunnel, between your device and to the website that you're communicating with, so no one can intercept that communication, no one can get into your device, and that's the benefit of having a VPN. So when you're getting off the ship in China, in Asia, in South America, wherever it might be, Mexico, then you are protected. So be sure to take a look and use a VPN like Surfshark so that your data is encrypted and you don't have to worry about any of that, along with all these other things we're talking about with shore excursions. And if you go to surfshark.com/living phase, they got a great deal for you. And that is, you're going to get 4 months extra free. And right now, during the Black Friday sales and holiday sales, you're getting an unbeatable price. So be sure to go to surfshark.com/living phase for 4 free months and an unbeatable price.
Yeah, we found it invaluable. Well, let's talk a little bit about the cons of booking directly through the cruise line. The biggest is the cost. In many instances, it's going to be 30 to 40% higher, and sometimes it's even going to be double. And another is, usually these are really large tours. I mean, as far as a large number of people that are getting on and off a bus. So when you have 40 people on a bus and you're having to wait for all 40 people to get off at this stop, do your looking around, and then all 40 people to get back on, it just takes time, and there's just no getting around that. And these usually are large groups, so just be prepared for that. And the last con is you really don't have quite the variety that you would have going through the many other options that we have used, going through private tour companies and so forth.
All the things we're going to talk about now.
Exactly.
All right. Well, the number one tour operator that we did use, and again, we want to say we have no sponsorship. There's no tie to this.
Right.
Was Shore Excursions Group. They are a company designed specifically to provide shore excursions to all the different cruise lines. And so they are set up to make sure that they can offer the equivalent companies, etc., experiences. And in fact, quite often they're using exactly the same companies that are being used on the cruise ships. Let's talk about the pros of using Shore Excursions Group. Well, first of all, the first big one is cost.
Right.
Right. So, what we found is they're going to be 30 to 40% less, and quite often they're using exactly the same tour operators. And it's kind of funny too, because we would get off the ship, meet our Shore Excursion Group, and there's a bus right next from the exact same tour operator loading up, Royal Caribbean tour groups there as well. So you're certainly going to, in almost all cases, save cost. Mm-hmm. Now you want to do your comparisons, but almost always. The other thing is more variety. Quite often, SEG is going to offer you more tours, different experiences than you're going to get with a cruise line booked tour.
Yeah, we like those food tours.
Yeah, exactly. We had a lot of those on there. Another is that quite often you're going to get smaller groups. Now you want to check that out. SEG has large, big bus tours too. You want to understand what sizes, but quite often you can get smaller, more intimate type tours that you can't necessarily get with the cruise lines. Another pro is that they do guarantee to get you back to the ship. They have a policy to get you back. Now, that said, you want to look into the terms and conditions and some of the very specifics. Their policy is not as good as the actual cruise line policy. So as an example, there's a cost limit. In some of the terms, it's like $1,000 to get you back to the ship. And, if you miss a flight in Africa and you got to fly to Paris and then fly back to another port, that's going to be way more than $1,000. So take a look at those terms and conditions and make sure that your actual trip insurance would cover something like that as well, to cover any gap that there may be like that. Now, that said, we never ran into an issue with any Shore Excursion Group tour getting us back to the ship. So we had very good luck with that. So let's talk about some of the cons.
First off, their cancellation policy is not as good. It's like 30 days in advance if you need to cancel. Mm-hmm. Next is you can purchase extra insurance, but it's not a cancel for any reason. It's if your ship misses a port, something like that.
Or medical.
Medical. We did try to use it at one point when my knees were really hurting, and we had a tour that I thought was going to be a lot of hills, a lot of stairs. And we called them and said, I just don't think I can do this tour. They said, well, you've got to get a doctor's note. It
was 24 days or 28 days, not 30 days or something when we called. Yeah, and
that would have cost a lot on the ship to go down to medical to get a doctor's note. And in the end, Shore Excursions did pay us for that tour
They
that we had
refunded. Well,
canceled.
they
They
refunded.
refunded it, yes. Which I was very, very happy about, but it just, I
Yeah,
think,
we had to elevate it to get it done.
I think it was because we have taken so many tours with them that they decided to go ahead and refund the money. But anyway, that was a little frustrating there that we had the extra insurance.
But it's
And we had
really
to fight for it.
Yeah. So that's not quite as good as the ship. One of the other things is their website is fairly primitive.
It is.
Yeah, so you can't just log on and see all your tours like you would. Like it doesn't work that way. You can book your tours on their website, and that actually works really good. You go in, you put your cruise ship, your dates, all that, and they are fully aligned with your ship's itinerary. And so, in fact, they're very good about that. And one of the pros we really didn't mention is they track your ship, they track your itinerary. If there's any changes, they contact you and they let you know, hey, your ship changed ports or itineraries, was going to be late, and they let you know. So they're really good about that. But when you are just trying to manage your trip, you kind of have to manage it on your own offline because their website does not have that ability. And any changes you need to make to your itinerary, you have to call them, not do it on the website. So now, that said, they have an 800 number. It works well. They usually have somebody pick up fairly quickly. And in fact, if you have an issue the day of your tour or on off hours, they have an emergency number to call. So they've got all those bases covered. It's just that you can't manage or really track your tours on their website.
And another con, not just about SEG, but about all the other tour operators that we're going to talk about, is you must have a cell phone, and you must have a cell phone that operates in the country where you're at, because you need to communicate with that tour operator. And heaven forbid, if something's going wrong and you're going to be late for the ship, you need a way to contact the ship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so important, and in fact, that's going to lead to one of our bullet points, our pro tips at the very end. So stay to that. We're going to have a couple of hints on that. Well, the other thing that as we go through some of these other tour operators, please be aware that as you're doing research online and you're looking at different tour operators, quite often they cross over. So as an example, if you go to shoreexcursions.com, they actually use Shore Excursion Group's engine and their website to book tours. Same thing with Viator and TripAdvisor. If you book on TripAdvisor, they actually use Viator. They're owned by the same company. So there is a lot of crossover between companies. They aren't necessarily different companies. Well, that takes us to the next of the companies that we're going to talk about to book Shore Excursions, and that is Viator.
It is. So Viator has some pros. They have a wide variety of tours to choose from. So you've got a wonderful selection there. It is owned by TripAdvisor, and also they've got a really good website that really helps you to manage your tours. So if you've got multiple tours going on, it's very easy to get on the website, to manage, to make changes, things like that.
Yeah, they also have an app, so your tour tickets are actually in the app, and it does remindments, notifications, all those types of things. So no, it really, from a technology standpoint, is leaps and bounds above Shore Excursions Group. However, that does bring us to really the major con with Viator, and that is that they are not just shore excursions. So you can pick, one of the filters you can put on is actually cruise ship excursions. However, many of their tours are land-based tours, so they're kind of focused on people that are staying in hotels, that are there for several nights, and so they may not necessarily align, their tour times may not align with the times you dock and the times that your ship has to depart. So that's something to really watch on Viator, is this going to align? Am I able to take this tour? You may see this amazing tour, but realize that it's not going to get back to the port for 3 hours until after your ship leaves. So really watch for that.
It's only on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and your ship happens to be there on Thursdays.
Exactly. So their system does not align as much as Shore Excursions Group directly to your itinerary, your ship, your departure times.
Well, the next tour organization that we have used is called Get Your Guide. Now, Get Your Guide really is somewhat similar to Viator. You're purchasing a planned tour. You are purchasing an excursion here.
Right, and their website operates very much like the others. It's a good website. Now this one, unlike Shore Excursions Group, is more like Viator, that you actually do have a profile and a login and all that. They have an app, and they've been in business about 15 years. So yeah, it's really a pretty good one. So some of the pros of using Get Your Guide are cost. So much like Viator, they're going to save you some money over the cost of a shore excursion from the cruise line. Their prices are actually very similar, and to be honest, Get Your Guide uses a lot of the same tour operators that Shore Excursion Group or Viator or TripAdvisor, they're kind of together there, all use. So, it's just another resource to be able to book your shore excursions, but you may be able to save a little bit of cost there.
Another pro is that you've got a wide variety of tours to choose from, some different or maybe unusual tours as well.
Right, that may not be offered by the cruise line,
yeah.
or even by Viator or others. They may have unique or, exclusive offers with some other tour operators.
All of these places have their own unique little idiosyncrasies.
Yep, exactly. And the other is that they do, as I mentioned, have a good website. So this is much better than Shore Excursions Group, that you can book it online, but then you got to make phone calls. Here, it's all booked through their website. You can control it, see your tickets, everything like that. So they do have a good website. And the other benefit of using Get Your Guide is you are working with a middleman, and a lot of times that has a bad connotation. But in this case, it's good because they're a buffer between you and the tour operator.
Right.
If the unforeseen happens, anything goes wrong, you have a bad tour, you do have some recourse. And we had a bad tour on one of our Get Your Guides, called them up, and we actually did get a refund. They gave us our money back once we explained what happened to them. So Nancy, is there another pro?
Well, there's one more. They're not as well known as Viator.
Or Shore Excursions Group.
Or Shore Excursions Group. So when the tours through Viator, Shore Excursions Group book out and are full, there's a possibility that Get Your Guide, there'd still be some openings and tours that you could take there. So, check all your options.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the cons. There really is only one, I'd say, with Get Your Guide, and that's much like Viator. They don't work exclusively with cruise ship shore excursions like a Shore Excursions Group does. So Get Your Guide may expect that you're staying in a hotel, or they may ask for your meeting point to be somewhere in the middle of town, or the times of the excursion may not align with your cruise ship. So you need to understand all of that, do your research, and make sure your tour guide and Get Your Guide knows that you're on a cruise ship and what time you have to be back to the port.
Right. Well, the next thing we want to talk about is tours by locals. Now, tours by locals is you are booking the guide. You're not booking a specific tour or excursion, you are booking the guide. So that really makes pro number one. You have a private tour.
Yeah, this is absolutely customizable. All those things. This guide is your guide, and so you're not on a bus with 50 people. You're not, on a minivan with a bunch of strangers. This is your tour, and quite often the guides can have anywhere from 2 people to maybe be 20 people, but it's going to be up to you to determine how big that tour is, what's happening. It's all customizable to you, and that's really pro number 2 is they will customize these tours.
They will. For instance, we've done a lot of these food tours, and maybe you want to try a specific food in a city. Then that's the kind of thing to talk about and to tell your guide, hey, I want to be sure to try this, and he's going to take you to the best restaurant for that food.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to do your own research and say, oh, I want to go see this particular statue because it's really unique. And, you tell the guide that, they will then take you there, show you where it's at. And they're all local guides, so they know these things. It's great being able to customize. It's the best of both worlds, really. Right. The next thing is that it's quite often you can have so pro number 3, you can have very unique experiences. So a private tour with maybe only 2, 4, 6 people, they can actually go places that a busload of 50 people can't go to. So you can have some very, very special experiences that tours by locals can take you to, they can let you experience, that larger tours through Shore Excursions Group or the cruise line really they just can't accommodate those things.
Well, another pro is you still have a middleman that you're working through. In fact, in the beginning, all of your information, contact information, is kept confidential. And so as long as you've got a good feeling about your guide, then you can become more contact him more directly. But in the beginning, you're kind of behind a wall,
right,
which is
right.
a good thing.
The emails go through their website and it's all private and masked and all that. Then eventually you'll exchange WhatsApp information. Then you can start communicating directly with your guide. But that said, you actually don't pay until you make sure that the guide is good, everything happened, and that middleman can be that buffer, so that if something does go wrong with the tour, you can get your money back, and there can be, especially if like the guide just doesn't show up or something, they can be there to help you out.
Well, there's really only a couple of cons, and one is they can book out very quickly. And a good example of this is when we were routed around Africa, which was unexpected. That was one of the first things that were these tours by locals guides that people were hunting them down and looking them up, because tours were actually difficult to find.
Very difficult
in Africa. And some people, I think, were kind of preparing in advance that we were going around Africa, and they had already been doing their research. They pre-booked.
Yeah, exactly.
So they were booked out.
Yeah. Well, the last con for tours by locals, and this is where it is quite a bit different than the others, the cost can be significantly higher. Now, not always. You can get a good buy on here, especially, if you have a tour of 6 people and you all share the cost. But quite often some of these local guides can put very high prices on their tours. I've actually seen tours for like 2 and 3 people, 4 people for $1,000. And it's really, I think sometimes they're just kind of putting a price out there and seeing, hey, will anybody take this price? So you really want to shop around, compare other tours in the area on like Shore Excursions Group, your cruise line, Viator, and see how that compares with what some of the tour guides are pricing their tours at.
That's a good point.
Well, let's talk about one of our next absolute favorite places to book shore excursions, and that's Guru Walks.
Well, why don't we talk about how Guru Walks works? There's no fee.
No, it's free. No, sort of.
You tip them at the end. So you tip them what you feel the tour was worth. And honestly, I think some of them do better than other tour guides, because we have found them to be absolutely phenomenal for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely.
They get paid well at the end. Well, let's talk about the pros of using a guru guide. You've got a local guide, and you've got a local guide who knows the area well. And so that they've given us phenomenal tours. We have really not been disappointed with having a guru guide. So that's been a good thing. So the next pro is they're more affordable, with more of the money typically going to the guide. And the last pro is this is where you're going to find these really unusual backdoor hidden places, these hidden gems that you want to see, is going on a guru walk.
Yeah, like in Venice, where we did the back streets of Venice with our backstreet boy, Fernando. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Well, let's talk a little bit about the cons. There are a few cons of guru walks. The first is that quite often the guru walks can end up being a large group. This happened to us a couple times, happened to a couple friends of ours, that they just keep booking and adding people and adding people. Next thing you know, you've got 20, 30, 40 people walking around this city together, and that can be a little overwhelming. So just kind of, watch for that. And remember, if it gets too big, you don't have to attend the guru walk. Now, that said, even though there's no cost, there's not really a cancellation policy, anything like that. One thing that we would ask is cancel on the website if you are not going to attend. And that's because some cities are actually taxing and charging the different guides based on how many people signed up on the website. So just be kind to your guide. And if you're not going to attend, not a big deal, just cancel before you go, or cancel right then when you get there so they can take your name off the roster. And then they don't get charged the tax for giving a guru walk.
Right.
But overall, we had some fantastic experiences with guru walks, and if it's not something that you've done, be sure to give it a try. Well, our next place to book some shore excursions are do your research on the internet, search the ports, search the towns that you're going into, and find small local guides that offer tour services.
Right.
Yeah. So, and in fact, a couple of the pros for those are they may have tours available when your cruise ship, when Shore Excursion Group, Viator, maybe they're all sold out, but you may be able to still find that small local guide to go and give you a really nice tour. Another pro of going with these small local guides is quite often the experiences they give are very unique. They may have a niche market of going and doing some strange like street food tour or something, that nobody else does. And they may take you to some more unusual places and things like that. So there are some real benefits of it, but of course, with those benefits come a couple cons.
First is they may not be aligned with the ship or with the ship's times and ports, so you need to watch for that. Second is they're not being backed by a larger company. So if you're having an issue, which this actually happened to some friends of ours, they had booked the tour. The tour was not what they had been told it would be or what they had expected, and they did not get their money back, and they didn't have a recourse or a way to go about getting their money back. So that was very unfortunate. So the thing is, and the other thing is, you really don't know a lot about these companies. It's harder to find out about these companies, so you've got to read the reviews and pay attention to those.
Well, the next great fun thing you can do for a shore excursion, and this is now getting into the let's wing it a little bit side, which honestly can be a ton of fun, and that's pick up a taxi, a rickshaw, something right there at the port. Quite often in many of these ports, you'll have a line of taxis, and they're actually not there to give you transportation as much as they are there to want to give you a tour. And in fact, as an example, in Gibraltar, if you've gone back and watched that video, that's exactly what we did. We walked out, there's an entire line of taxis, but they're not there to give you a ride into town. They're there to book a tour. And in fact, different taxi drivers are assigned to be tour taxis and to be transportation taxis. So this is very common. You want to take a look. You want to make sure that you do your negotiation. Do not pay up front. Pay at the end, and make sure that you understand where that tour is going to take you, how long it's going to take you, etc. So same thing with rickshaws. We had a great rickshaw experience a couple times. Horse and carriage or hansom cab, they're called. We have wonderful experience with that. So quite often you can have that experience right there at the port by just getting off and booking it. And the real pro is you can have an amazing adventure that you didn't even plan, because those taxi drivers, those rickshaw drivers, they really do know the great spots to take people to. So that can be a really, really good experience.
Well, the next thing we want to talk about is GPS My City. This is an app that you download onto your phone, and it is a lot of fun. You can plan your own tour. There are tours that are already in there, so you could choose one. You want a food tour? Perhaps a food tour is already in there. You can select the highlights of the places you want to go, and it is going to create the route that is the easiest route for you to get from your start point to your stop point. And it is a fun app to play around with.
Yeah, I've really loved GPS My City. We used it more and more and more as the world cruise went on. So a few of the pros of GPS My City, as Nancy mentioned, it's very inexpensive. In fact, you can really get by with just using the free version. Now, the paid version is less than $20 a year. And what that allows is additional downloads. It allows additional information, gives you articles on the city, some places that maybe don't have specific maps or GPS maps, but may have an article talking about the best places to go. So there's a lot of extra information, and for $20 for an entire year, it's really, really quite a bargain. The other pro of it is you get to go at your own pace. There's nobody telling you where to be, when, or what to do.
That's huge.
Oh, it's huge.
That's huge.
You're in control of your shore excursion, and you can also get back to the ship anytime you want to get back to the ship. If you get tired, you can just end the tour and go back. So it's really wonderful being able to do that on your own. Another thing you can do that's a real benefit is you can map it before you go on the tour or before you get to your location. So you can say, yeah, okay, I've seen 200 churches in the last 5 ports. I don't want to see any more churches, but I want to go see these 3 things here. So you can really go and map out what you want to go see, or if you found some particular little thing that you're interested in, you can map to go see that as well. Now, a couple of the cons really, well, as we said, you don't have a tour guide, you've got to be on your own, and in general, it's a lot of walking because these are all set up as walking tours. Now, that said, most cities have the electric scooters, electric bikes that you can rent through an app, so you can always get those set up. Or if the GPS My City takes you way out, you could even do something like rent a car or etc. like that, so that you could still use that. So yeah, we highly recommend give GPS My City, even if you have a tour in a particular location. Download it anyway, try the free version and just see how that tour aligns with what your guide's telling you and what does the article in GPS My City say about that thing that you're going and seeing.
Well, friends, we hope you found this to be enjoyable. We hope we've given you a lot of tips and hints and things to make your next cruise the most enjoyable that it can be.
Right, and that's really what it's about, exploring these ports, getting with the locals, finding out everything, and we hope all these new places that you can now book shore excursions through are going to be helpful and help you make the most of it. And we'd also like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark VPN. If you go to surfshark.com/livingphase, not only are you going to get those 4 extra months free, but they have unbeatable pricing right now for Black Friday and the holidays. Thank you, Surfshark. And thank you everyone for following along with us on this video. We hope you all have a wonderful cruise and enjoy this wonderful world we live in.
Have a beautiful day. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.